You know, this week has gone by very quickly, and I've had a fun time doing these interviews for you to listen to. Today we have Keith Richter, and you all know Keith Richter. He is the CFO, or the treasurer, of the conference, and he always has delightful things to say, even if it's always about money. But money is important. So let's listen to Keith as he has a few words with me. After that, we're going to have Pastor Olaf Clausen. And you know Pastor Clausen because he's been in our conference quite some time. But he's been in the conference office for a couple of years, and he does Sabbath school and children's ministries and personal ministries. You won't want to miss his interview either. Now, the one that's going to end, because it's going to be a little longer than 15 minutes, is something that I wanted to let you know about. This is one that talks about how you become a church. You start out with a friendship group and a company, and then you become a church. We're going to go over the protocol of how to, so you have a better understanding of how to do it. I've also asked several of the pastors that have fairly new churches or companies, and they're going to just talk to me. And we're going to ask them what their challenges are and how they've felt running a brand new church. So we have the Epic Church from Red Deer. So we have Pastor Moises Ruiz. We have Lawel Natufe, who pastors Christ the Way and Abundant Life. We have the Edmonton Ghanaian. And I'm just going to say Pastor Joseph, because he's fairly new and I haven't talked to him enough, and his name is a little difficult for me. But that's the beauty of this program. It's just talking. Nothing is rehearsed. So you get the good with the bad. But he comes from the Edmonton Ghanaian group, and he also pastors the Edmonton Filipino group. We have Fort Saskatchewan and Darrell Beaudoin, and he's quite an established church already. And the latest one is called the Friendship Group. The Friendship Company. It changed just a couple weeks ago. And its leader is Dr. Kevin Burrell, and it meets up at Burman University. So this will be a really interesting interview for you to listen to, so you can see that there is a protocol. There are things that you have to do in order to become a church. Enjoy today's segment. Bye for now. And it's always good to have Keith Richter, the CFO of the Alberta Conference, with me. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's the term I use on all the government papers and everything. And
at the conference, you use treasurer.
Yes.
Well, it's good to have both titles because you do all the finances of the conference. This has been quite the year, hasn't it?
It has been a changed world this year for us.
January, February, we were not doing too bad. Everything was going along great. And March happened. And so tell us what you have done in this COVID-19 environment.
Yes, well, March hit. And March hit actually very hard for us in terms of our tithe and offerings. And in fact, it hit so hard that we projected the rest of the year. We did a budget based on a 25% decrease in revenue.
Did you redo your budget?
I redid it, yes.
Oh.
And cut out $1 million in expenses. And we, unfortunately, when I did the budget decrease in 20 to 25% of revenue, leaves us down about $4 million. So there was about a $3 million deficit that we were looking at in March. And so we were looking at our plans in terms of layoffs. But what we put into place immediately was we froze salaries for the year. We cut travel, all our travel costs. We canceled any capital project that wasn't in process. We cut out the professional development for employee funds and numerous other areas right away. And then we started to make plans. But fortunately for us, April wasn't as bad as March. It was still not good, but it lowered our projections on a decrease of revenue. And then, Debbie, the miracle of May came around. And May was an outstanding month for us. In fact, May this year, our tithe was ahead of the previous year of 2019.
That really is a miracle.
It's a miracle, and it's I think God's way of giving me some peace.
Oh, yes, I'm sure that you were just turning gray, right?
Yes. You know what was nice for me is as I viewed it, yes, it was a blessing to the Alberta conference, but for me, I looked at it in a little bit different perspective, is that God's blessing upon his people.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to receive that tithe, it means that our people are still receiving a blessing in their lives. And so I was very grateful for God looking after our members, because it's not an easy time for anybody, and I'm sure there are some that are hurting and suffering, and we're trying to do what we can to help where we can, but just to see that God is blessing our people for many of them is truly gives me a spirit of thankfulness and praise.
Yes. You know, it's been very different to have all our churches shut also. You know,
Yes.
but there's blessings with that too, because sometimes I know some pastors have told me that, you know, you might have 300 in church, but during this time, he might have 1,500 online watching. You know, so there's give and take there too, isn't there?
There is. And I've also had reports from pastors who have told me that they have had an increase in offerings this year.
Oh, really?
Yes. In fact, one church is just shy of 10% ahead of where they were last year.
Is that because of the online giving and because of there's more people watching?
Uh, you know, he thought that it was partially because there's more people watching. They had done a series on stewardship in their church as well. But the main thing is we're living in a completely different world,
Mm-hmm.
and people are seeing God's, uh, you know, how can I say this? People are seeing that God's prophecies that He has outlined in Scripture have been highlighted in their lives, and people's assurance in Scripture, and that has been confirmed. And so there has been what I think he would refer to as a bit of a spiritual revival amongst a number of people.
Well, that's a blessing. That's a big blessing.
Yes.
Let's go on and talk about a bit more of what's going on in the conference. You said there was evangelism that goes on. Are you giving out evangelism money this year? Is there things at Foothills Camp? What are some of the projects that are still going on even in this time?
Well, evangelism, there has been some online evangelism happening,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and which is good. And interestingly enough, there's been a lot of personal evangelism happening, whether it's small groups meeting online or one-to-one Bible studies happening. And In fact, my dear wife has had a Bible study going for a little while, and we are looking forward to baptism in August. So
Well,
we're
that's nice.
we're quite excited about it. But we are seeing this happening throughout the conference. So evangelism continues to happen. Some of the large programs, of course, because we can't meet in large numbers, have been postponed till next year, and we've simply funds that we've allocated to the churches, we have put that on to next year's budget, so that they can continue with their plans when they are able to carry them out.
Oh, okay. Is there any programs at Foothills Camp that you have continued to do? Because nobody's at Foothills Camp right now.
The Foothills Camp, effectively, we shut down. We had one person left there who was just making sure everything was, the heat was on and there were no water problems, and some of the yard maintenance was being completed. We have recalled two of our other employees for the camp, and there's some work that needs to be done. With a little bit of flooding again, there's some damage to some of the roads and that at the camp. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So we were preemptive in laying off all our camp staff. And so we're gradually starting to bring them back. There's been no programs happening. Effectively, in March, we shut the camp down till August, the middle of August, where we were going to reassess. And right now, it looks like we just got something from the Alberta Camping Association, and they basically said in there that the summer is out.
Right.
Completely. So
that takes away from some of the extra camp meetings that happen, like the Filipino one and the Russian one, and there's Caribbean one. There's a whole bunch of them, isn't there?
Yes, there's a whole bunch that happened at the end of August into the beginning of September. So it's a completely different change at camp. But there was one exciting thing that happened at camp.
What would that be?
And that would be, Debbie, that we have a wildlife camera that we have installed.
I heard about this.
A number of them, and we caught the image of 3 cougars.
Yes.
On our camera. So it was quite exciting. It was a mom with probably just over a year old cubs that she had with her. So
well, that is exciting. But if you were down there, I'm not sure it would be so exciting. Because that is nice, though, that wildlife is down there and it's around. That is nice. What about churches? Are you doing any new churches, or what's happening with the one that burnt down?
Yeah, the Peace River is in a planning phase right now. They're planning on what they will be doing. They're looking at a number of options. So they are excited about that. Of course, the process always takes longer than we like. And but our White Court Church is in the process. They're hoping to start building here in July. They were hoping to start sooner, but you can only go as fast as the geotechnical and engineers are able to sign off on their documents. So that has been a little bit of a frustration, but that will be moving forward this summer.
Okay. I'm just going to skip over a few things that I kind of jotted down that we could talk about, because I don't think we'll have time for all of them. But I know you have a summer student in finance again.
Yes.
And how does that work?
We work with a number of groups. We work with Burman University on giving experience to their students. We work with GCAST from the General Conference, the auditors there, who provide us with a list of names that they feel would make very strong candidates for future church work. And then we work with the SDACC. So we work with a number of organizations, and the goal is to introduce our students to church work. We have a need, particularly in the finance area, to bring in workers that have, so they can see what's happening in the church and hopefully make a career of it. So we look for a number of the bright minds that Berman produces, and we are always happy with what we see here.
And we've done this for ever since I've been here, so it's something that goes on year to year, which is a nice thing. Let's talk about the Indigenous outreach. What are we doing with that? And you have to be quick because we don't have much time left.
Well, what we have our summer program that we typically run year after year. But what we've done this year is, because of COVID, we could only bring in a couple to keep the social distancing and vehicle and stuff. So we brought in a couple, and they are doing a number of things. They're helping to serve the members at Mesquachi's, and they're also doing some renovations on some of the areas that the church had been renting, just to spruce them up again. They're doing all kinds of pastoral work, and it's exciting. Typically, they do Bible programs all summer with the kids at different places, whether up at Yellowknife or a trip to the West Coast, or a number of places here in Alberta. And it's great experience for our students. It's great experience for our First Nations people. And interestingly enough, Debbie, it gives, what we have experienced is it produces people who continue to have a missionary spirit throughout their lives after they have worked in these summer missions. It's very exciting to see the change in life that it produces in our young people, in terms of having that missional service mindset after they've been through that.
That's good. Now, we're just about out of time, but in the last minute, can you remind people how they can contribute to the offerings at camp meeting time? I know it's a COVID-19 push. Maybe you can just explain that in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, our goal is to raise a significant amount of funds to be able to help churches and schools where they have suffered far more than we have, whether it's from a decrease in their offerings or an increase in the expectations the government has on cleaning and janitorial and all these areas that will be coming up as we reintroduce school in fall. So there are many challenges, and so I would ask people to give generously to our school, for our schools and for our churches, and for evangelism, that we can help offset some of the extra charges that COVID has produced in our organization.
So I think all of the offerings this year are specifically COVID-19, but through all of those kinds of things. And they can do all online, and everything is set up for them, right?
Yes, yeah, it can all be done online through the conference. There will be instructions given in the videos, and we're looking forward to camp meeting.
We are. And on that note, I do have to say goodbye because we're over time. So we're going to have to do this again so I can give you another 15 or 20 or 30 minutes. Okay. Thank you for being with me again, like you are every year, and we will talk again.
See you.
Bye for now. have Olaf Clausen with me right now. And Olaf, welcome. And tell me what you do at the conference office.
Hello, Debbie. Good to see you again. Well, I hold 3 positions at the conference office: director for Sabbath schools, children's and personal ministries.
Well, that should keep you busy, right?
It does at different times and in different ways, because they're related in some ways and they're not in others, and they all require a different kind of set of skills and giftings. So I do my best to try to pull out those inner gifts, if I have them, to use in helping to train people in these ministries.
You're a man of many skills, though, so we know that you're up to the challenge.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate the confidence.
Well, when we're at actual work in the conference office, you're at the opposite end of the building than I am, so yes. I don't get to see you as much, but I do come into your office just to make sure that you're okay in there and you know that I'm around.
Yes, so yes, you do check in on me. I appreciate it.
Well, because you do personal ministries and Sabbath school and children's ministries, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about what's happened since last camp meeting. And I know that COVID has changed a few things, and so postponements have happened, but give me a little breakdown here.
Well, after camp meeting last year, we started to explore some collaborations with other departments within the conference office, and I worked with the youth department. You were involved actually with Elevate, yes. Elevate X, our conference for young adults, which was held in Banff in the fall, November of 2019. Very successful, a lot of positive comments. NAD was taking interest in it. We hope it's something that will continue to grow and bless the next generation of leaders in our church. So we collaborated on that, combined budgets, and worked to give our youth a voice. Then we were planning for spring meetings, both regional meetings, both in Edmonton and Calgary. But as you know, COVID came along and changed that direction entirely. As I consulted with ministers in Edmonton and Calgary, it was kind of determined that people would prefer to have a face-to-face experience for those kinds of meetings, and so we postponed them until the fall of 2021. The title was Biblical Discipleship in a Radically Changing World, and really the idea was, we've got so many winds of doctrine blowing in the Christian church, in the Adventist church. How do we determine truth, biblical, scriptural truth? And so, the goal was to bring a speaker in who could help our personal ministries, people that are working and doing Bible studies, Sabbath school teachers as well, to get to know their Bibles better and methods for knowing their Bibles. So we had, topics like how to understand the Bible without a commentary. Is there a conspiracy in Bible translation? Understanding Jesus in his biblical context. And then some of the hot topics that we're dealing with in the church right now, like blaspheming the Holy Spirit, a fatal condition. Will all Israel be saved? Understanding Paul's writings, and the Trinity, Son of Man, Son of God, God. And so, people are getting quite interested and excited about it, but don't despair. We'll bring that back. I've talked with our speaker, Dr. Blatnikov, and we're looking to find a date in the spring of 2021.
Well, that sounds pretty fascinating, and you covered a lot of territory in that. So it would be a weekend, it would be a regional thing. How would that work? Yeah,
so it was designed to be regional. So we were going to be hosted by Calgary Central and Red Willow, also in Edmonton, for a Friday night Sabbath series of meetings. And that
so one weekend down in Calgary, one weekend up in Edmonton.
Correct.
The Central people would be invited to either one?
Yeah, anybody could, Central could go any direction they like. The logistics of it is a bit challenging, and the goal is to try to keep people from having to, travel and be put up, and it's more convenient if you're not able to get away. So we're experimenting with regionals as opposed to just one meeting all at Foothills Camp, for example, which is what we're doing actually this fall. So that's a good segue for what's coming up We hope, if COVID doesn't, hit us with a second wave and we end up in lockdown again. But we had planned and still have planned children's ministries training from the NAD. We would be offering track 3. Tracks 1 and 2 had been offered previously, so we're hoping to offer track 3, which is child evangelism.
Okay, let me stop there and just ask a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
For those regional meetings, north and south, would you be archiving them in case you need to do them virtually at some point, or somebody can go in and watch them?
We hadn't fleshed out plans for recording yet, but that's certainly an option and something.
It's the day and age we're in, right? So everything's recorded.
Yeah, isn't COVID teaching us that? We're all having to adapt to this kind of venue like we're doing right now.
I know, and it's a learning curve for all of us, and the more we do it, the better we get. So that's a good thing too.
Absolutely.
You talked about the training for children's, what was it?
Children's ministries. So it's basically for workers in children's ministries. It's a certification program that's offered by NAD.
Okay, now you said we have done 1 and 2, and we're going to do 3.
Yep.
How does somebody come into that has not taken 1 and 2, or can they?
Question. Yeah. So I mean, you can take them separately. They don't have to, build on one another. Track 3 is actually child evangelism, so it's dealing with various programs for children's evangelism, like Vacation Bible Schools, Go Fish, Kids in Discipleship, health programming for children, teaching children to witness, that kind of thing. But what's interesting is, again, because of COVID, NAD is moving to offer the certification training online through the Adventist Learning Community, which is a website that's been building out for several years now on just about any topic you can think of under the title Adventist. So
sometimes
that's upcoming.
Sometimes all the employees are supposed to go in there and do certain ones.
Yeah, we have to do
the
our
whole conference
development there. Yes, that's right. That's correct.
So
yeah.
So if they don't, or they can't come to one of those seminars that you have, they can still do it online. Is there a cost to them if they go online and go into the learning center and do it? If I was teaching Sabbath school in Bicycle and I wanted to take 1 and 2 or 3, I can still do that. Is there a cost for the person if they don't do it? A big thing.
We don't have the details yet on costing. I don't think there likely will be. If we do the certification training at Foothills, there are costs for putting people up, which is what the plan is. And, we'll subsidize some of that from my department. Again, that's all dependent on what happens with COVID and budgets. Right. But, typically there's a minimal cost for this training because, we want to equip people to be the best that they can be. They've invested a lot in the church, and we want to reinvest that in them.
I think it's also important to do it, and if you can't be there, to do it online. However, I think that the face-to-face interaction with others that are doing it in other places in the conference brings so much more to it, because you can share with each other of experiences of what has happened well and what has not happened well. That kind of thing it's important to be face to face too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we're finding that we can do things differently if we have to, and so we'll see how this all turns out. One thing I did want to touch on, Debbie, if we can, is which is really near to us right now this summer, is VBS. And, what are we going to do about VBS? We're recording this before the camp meeting, but, there is an exciting development that I've been alerting our pastors and children's ministries leaders to, and that is that the Heroes VBS, which was scheduled to roll out this summer, is still going on, but the NAD is developing a live Heroes VBS that's going to be broadcast throughout all of NAD in English and Spanish for sure, and we're still discussing if we're able to do it in French in the time that we have. But that would have taken place July 6th through 10th. And we're very excited about that because everybody can kind of get together across the division and enjoy a VBS North America wide, which I think is exciting. But that same repackaging of the Heroes material for distance delivery is available to churches and even homes. So they've created a new version of the Heroes VBS that's significant, or it's different enough from the typical VBS that you'll be able to do it in church and at home. And then the following year, because they've invested so much in it and all the printing and materials, they will offer Heroes VBS again in 2021, but there will be some different elements to it. So that's the kind of the near-term solution that's been offered for COVID.
So if it's a live production of VBS, does that mean that there's a group at the NAD or at the GC that are acting it out and having the whole program done, and it's like a good television program?
Yeah, that's sort of like that, and it'll be ongoing elements throughout the day, starting around 10 in the morning. Well, again, it depends on where you are, which time zone you're in, but
Right.
There'll be different elements throughout the day, children's crafts with things that you've got readily at hand at home, and there'll be music and all those sorts of things. It's being spearheaded by a couple different unions in the U.S., so they're providing the Spanish and the English components of it, and so it's not sort of centrally located out of NAD, but they're utilizing different children's ministries departments. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was wondering how that would work. I mean, maybe they just get all the people at the GC to do some acting or something, but it makes sense to have it done in different places and to use them. Well, it's interesting because that seems to be how teaching is happening right now because of COVID. The same kinds of things are going on. Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like everybody to know about your department? I know that you go out and preach a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, every second Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, say that again.
So you go out to preach. Do you also do seminars in the afternoons? Do you, in relation to Sabbath school? I mean, you're a preaching pastor besides doing all this administrative work. So I know you like
that. Well, I actually consider myself more of a teacher than a preacher, but I guess that's fitting for this department. I go out and preach. My focus right now is on Sabbath school in the sermon hour, and then presenting seminars for Sabbath school teachers to kind of help them, refine their craft, as it were. Also, presenting sermons on discipleship. And it's kind of following the history of discipleship in its early first century context and how that relates to us today. So there's a number of different things that I'm doing with churches. I was out to about 20, I think I was out 29 Sabbaths last year. This year's changed things, but I had planned again about that many, and I was already booking late into 2020, and now we'll see how that works in 2021. But yeah, that's typically what I'm doing. Also,
like half a year of Sabbath.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, on the road. Yellowknife, Fort McMurray. I was planning to go down to Medicine Hat, but that of course was canceled. So yeah, all over the province, all over the conference really. The last thing we were supposed to present at camp meeting this year, but the program changed up, and I'm hoping to be able to do that next year if our planning allows for it, and that is to do a camp meeting seminar on discipleship, which I've called "To Be Like Jesus: Biblical Discipleship in a Modern World," and kind of following that same kind of trajectory of what was the history, what does it mean within the Jewish context to be a disciple, and how do we bring that forward into our lives in the 21st century. So stay tuned for that. That's pretty much all that I've got on the go at the moment.
Well, I think our 15 minutes might be just about up too. It might even be more, but that's okay. You've shared a lot today, and I've enjoyed it. I've learned what you're up to, so I don't have to come down and check you out in your office if we should ever get back.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
No, I just love to come and chat. So
yeah,
it's always nice to have you and to find out what is going on in your department, which is a large department. So thank you again, and I hope that the listeners have had a good overview of what you do, and they know how to get a hold of you so that you can come to their church.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to come to their churches.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll see you when we see you in
Thanks,
real
Debbie.
life. Okay, bye-bye for now. And welcome back. This time I have several different people on with me. We're going to talk about some of the newest congregations, whether they be a fellowship group, whether they be a company, whether they be a newer church, or one that's been established for a while but still is very new. So I've got, maybe I'll let them introduce each other, themselves. Let's start with Darrell. Where are you from?
Pastor Darrell Beaudoin. I'm pastoring the Fort Saskatchewan Church Plant Project.
Okay.
Fort Saskatchewan,
And
not the province
Fort
of
Saskatchewan.
Just outside of
Okay.
Edmonton.
Right. It is just outside of Edmonton. It's a nice little town, actually. Moises.
27,000 people now. When I moved here 6 years ago, it was 18,000, and now it is 27,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's growing.
I've been told that it has one of the fastest growing economies in the world right now.
That's good. It's a good place for you to be then.
Mm-hmm.
What about Moises? Where are you from?
Hi, long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm in Red Deer, Alberta, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. And that's a good place to be from, too. Lawel, where are you pastoring?
I am in the beautiful capital city of our province in Edmonton. We are blessed to have about 1.4 million precious people. And I am at the Abundant Life Church and the Christ the Way Church.
And those are pretty new too, right? Last
Yes,
couple of years,
new.
3 years?
Pretty new, about 5 years old.
Okay. And Joseph, you're up in the north. Sort of.
Actually, I'm in Edmonton, Filipino, and Edmonton, Ghanaian. The Ghanaian is the new in my district. It was organized as a company March 11, 2017. And following year, it was also organized as a church, April 14, 2018.
Good. Thank you. And Pastor Burrell, Dr. Burrell, where are you doing your company, fellowship group, church? What is it?
It's well, we've been officially a company now, as Pastor Ali mentioned to me last week. But we are at the lovely town of Lacombe, on the hilltop, as we say. We are a fellowship group out of the College Heights Church, just achieving company status.
Very good. And I think there's two more. George, could you tell us who they are?
Jean Wookley, and he's the pastor for Southview Company and Okotoks Company.
And Southview is in Calgary, am I right?
Yes, both is in the Calgary area.
Okay, now that we know where you're all from, now let's have George give us 2 minutes of what it takes to change status from company, a fellowship group, to company, to whatever. Tell us how that works.
Okay, let's see, we could do this in 1.5 minutes. Well, first of all, a company, not a company, a fellowship group is part of a congregation, which means to say they have in mind of moving on to the other stage, which would be a company. And then eventually, the final stage, a church. A company, a fellowship group is still under the umbrella of the mother church. Their tithe, their everything is coordinated by the mother church. When you move from a fellowship group to the company status, you are saying that we think that we can start on our own. That means to say, the recommendation in the document that we have, you must have at least 25 to 30 members in that group with a tight base of 25,000, which I think will be going up very soon. That's just by $25,000. You remain as a company for a while to demonstrate that you are strong financially, personnel, and other areas, that you are strong enough. And after that is determined, now when you become a company, the recommendation is a 2-year period. Some churches have it earlier, like Pastor Batiancila mentioned a while ago. The Ghanaian group did it in 1 year time. I think Okotoks is along that same line. So it depends on the growth. You must be able to show as a company also that you are growing through baptism. Because that's the whole idea of the church plant and fellowship group. Mission. And then the final stage is to become a church. Now, in becoming a church, there are forms and guidelines that we send out to show that you are capable of moving to the next level. I think it says that in order to become a church, the document says that there must be a membership of at least 45 members, I think.
Yeah, 45.
It could be more. That's why some churches go on faster, because they make that very fast. So these are some of the criteria, and all this, we have what we call a church plant committee who looks after this, not the conference personnel. They are part of the committee. But this church plant committee look at all the criteria and guidelines and would say yay or nay, all right, you need to come up in this way or that way. But it is approved at ADCOM in becoming a church, a company, all of that. So it's a process, and a beautiful process. Every one of you all could relate to that. Kevin is the newest child on the block. Kevin Group is the newest on the block, and we welcome you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
And we know that you will enjoy.
I'm among
I
good
was just
company.
going to ask these guys if it was really a wonderful process, because I'm sure there was lots of bumps on the way. Darrell, I know you started in Fort Saskatchewan a few years ago, and has it been a struggle? Has it always just been going in the right direction?
Well, keep in mind that our situation is unique in that we didn't have a mothering church. We were asked, my wife and I, to move into the Fort Saskatchewan area and start from the ground up. So right from the get-go, we began to mobilize any local church members that live in the area. And it took us a year to find some property or a place to worship. And once we started worship, we had about 10 people worshiping. And now we have about 50 of us, and lots of kids in that too. But we're very autonomous, and we're thankful for all the resources that the conference has made available to us along the way, because our mandate is to continue to move forward evangelistically and grow. But we're unique in that we don't have a mothering church.
Okay. Now, hello, Natufe. You moved in. Yes, hello. You moved into 2 companies that were sort of established already, right?
So actually, it was a church and a company.
Oh, okay. One of them became a church by the time you came. Okay.
One of them became a church very, 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 very early, which was a rather unique situation. And the other one is pretty much on the verge of becoming a church. I heard it has already been voted by our amazing executive committee. So we are just waiting to reopen to be formally established as a church.
So was that because you said that one came very early? Was that because there was a core group that came out of other churches? Because I know it happened because of that big evangelism thing, the campaign we had up there a few years ago. So is it because of the core people that decided this is a good place to come and worship, and let's start something in this area of the city. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, and both of the entities emerge from mother churches. So for Christ the Way, which is a church and has been a church now for about, I think, 4 years, they came from the South Church, and I guess the leadership of the South Church, they were more intentional about pushing the church to acquiring church status, or pushing the company to acquiring church status. The leadership at Abundant Life, they were not as intentional. They felt that they wanted to give Abundant Life a little more time to enjoy the privileges of its company status.
Are there privileges?
Well,
Lots of privileges.
yeah, there are privileges, from a financial perspective. And,
okay.
there are privileges as it relates to various exemptions, various monetary contribution exemptions, which we don't have to go into here right now, but there are a few privileges.
Oh, well, that's good. Now, Moises, you and because you started out at the Red Deer Church as the associate or assistant, right? What was your vision?
Our vision was to create a church where people that felt like they didn't belong in church could belong and participate fully. And it really started as a Bible study. Bible studies are dangerous, by the way. It grew into why there's so many friends that aren't comfortable going to a church. There are some of my neighbors I'd love to invite, but there are some barriers, some real, some perceived barriers to some more traditional churches. Could we create something? And then that small group through prayer, one thing led to another. We opened up in a garage, old mechanic's garage, and that space just really seemed to work for us, and it's taken off. And 2018, we were birthed as a church. So we were very excited. We had a party too. It was great.
So is your church a little more innovative than the normal church in what you do every week?
I would say we just have a slightly different focus. Even our name is Epic, and that just means story. And we think that the stories of the Bible, narratives of the Bible, can speak to this generation. And so it's a little different. It's contextualizing the Seventh-day Adventist message to young adults. Yeah.
And that's a much needed area too, isn't it? Because
That's
there
right.
are many, many young adults that may not feel comfortable in a regular church. Pastor Joseph, the Edmonton Ghanaian, how many members does it have?
At this moment, we have like 45 baptized members, and we have some visitors every Sabbath before the COVID erupted.
Yes.
We have some children. I think in regular Sabbath, we have more than 50, sometimes 55 or 60, depending upon the good weather and people who come out. And Ghanaian church in Edmonton is a little bit like a kind of conservative Ghanaian, and it is kind of a challenge in this time and in day and age that people, especially the young adults, are coming up, and there will be sometimes a conflict of sometimes programming and some interest and some innovations, or the older ones, the senior ones. But we'll try to facilitate all those things that we will be able to grow numerically and also spiritually.
And it really is hard to keep everybody happy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know what you mean by the conservative, because when I lived in Uganda, it was very conservative. However, it was very lively. It was fun to be at. So there's always people that may like something and may not like something, etc. So Kevin, you're the youngest one on the block here. How did you decide that you needed to do something on the hilltop? Oh, did you mute yourself? I think you might have muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. I did mute myself.
That's okay.
Yes, it grew out of just a sense that some folks needed to be engaged in ministry. And we have some wonderful congregations here in Lacombe, as you know, the College Heights Church and the Lacombe Community Church. And yet there are some folks who felt that they still needed an opportunity to have their talents and skills engaged. But more importantly, myself and Dr. Boyd had been talking for a while about starting up an intentional multicultural church, a church that is not just multiculturalism doesn't just happen to it, but it has that in mind as its end goal. And so that was all of those various streams came together to kind of get us started. So we started with the goal of engaging the members for service and community building, and also for outreach. And we wanted to be intentionally multicultural. And we have been tremendously supported by Pastor Jeff Potts and the board there to help us to get started. And so we're very excited about what we're doing. We certainly have challenges, but it's been great. It's all these streams coming together to get us started.
So it's kind of something that came out of the theology department at Burman University.
In part, but not entirely. I mean, we have many community members as part of our group and our core leadership. We have not just myself and Dr. Boyd, but others, including community members that are part of the in fact, most I would say are part of most of our leadership, part of the community, the local community. And so we also want to reach some of the folks who, for some reason, more or less what Moses said, are not fully engaged in church for one reason or the other. So we're trying to attempt to reach that group as well. So yeah, it's not just theology. Certainly we have certain advantages in terms of theology students being part of our group, but they're certainly not the focus. We want to be community oriented as opposed to student focused.
Okay, so there's so many ways to reach people nowadays, and of course COVID struck, and I know that probably all of you have done lots of online virtual churches. Let's talk about Epic. Do you meet in person or do you meet virtually?
We just met in person for the first time this last Saturday.
Along with all the restrictions.
That's right. That's right. Masks, everything.
What about you, Pastor Darrell?
Well, we're going to meet virtually until we really feel that we're able to operate a conventional church service, because we've just got kids coming and the families, and it's going to be a real temptation for us not to want to intermingle. And our potluck dinners, we've got church members that are coming from a wide area as far as Andrew, Alberta, which is an hour east, and people coming from the farthest side of Edmonton. And then, and again, just for a bedroom community like Fort Saskatchewan, we have a number of individuals, Adventists, who live in Fort Saskatchewan, and they attend church in Edmonton. And then we've got Edmonton members who come to Fort Saskatchewan. So, and then we've got a number, about half our congregation live right in Fort Saskatchewan. So we're just trying to be all things to all people and keep the flame burning in Fort Saskatchewan.
Well, that's good. Because I know that you're online quite often. What are you doing through COVID? Okay, continue, Lowell.
Yeah, I was saying that, we have had numerous series during COVID, numerous presentations, and we have actually experienced unprecedented explosive church growth during this COVID season in terms of biological conceptions. So in the next few months, we'll be having a whole lot of babies joining the church. So many of my members have gotten pregnant. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. And it's a blessing, Deb. It's a blessing.
Come
so
December, there's going to be a baby boom.
That's right. I'm going to be dedicating at least 5 or 7 babies in December.
You have a young congregation then.
That's right. That's right.
That's good. That's nothing wrong with that. But I do know that you do morning worships, you do Wednesday nights, you do church. I know that you do an awful lot of different things, and that's great. I'm going to ask about where you all meet. Is it been hard for you to find a place to meet, or to rent, or to own, or how has that come about? Let's talk to Joseph. Yeah, don't forget to unmute yourself now.
Yes, we are meeting at the Lutheran Church in 135 Avenue, and we have been blessed to have that place. It's a really nice place, and it's a low rent. It's only $500 a month. So from 9:00, 9:30 in the morning until 4:00. So we are using the chapel, and also the recreation hall, the fellowship hall. And then we can also do the Bible study in the afternoon when we have our fellowship lunch after that. So it's good.
Okay. Darrell, have you purchased a church, or have you thought of purchasing a church in Fort Saskatchewan?
Oh, yes. We started a couple of years ago a church building fund, and we have about $20,000 plus in it now. And, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. I mean, it took us a year. Property is at a premium, as most of us know all around Alberta, but in Fort Saskatchewan, being that the economy, what it is, an industrial growing city, it's very difficult to own land there. But I called all the churches in the area. Some of the pastors I wasn't able to talk to, I left a message on their voicemail, and then lo and behold, about a year later, just out of the blue, I received a call from the Pentecostal church saying that they would be interested in renting their property out to us for Sabbath services, and it's gone very well. Our relationship with them is a very good relationship. They've learned a lot about who we are as Adventists. We do the Saturday thing, but they really respect us, and it's a providential miracle, we believe, by God, that we have this property, because it's just a perfect size. However, we are really challenged with the size of the building now, because with youth groups and expansion for needed rooms, we're very limited, and that's just going to be an ongoing problem until we move into our own building.
Okay, Moises, I'm going to ask you, because I know that there's exciting things happening in the Epic Church.
Yeah, we recently bought land, and
Praise the Lord.
It's zoned correctly. It has all the infrastructure in place. We just have that little detail of money to build the building, which is no big deal. So we are excited.
You have faith.
That's right. All you need is a little bit of faith. We actually had a camp out there before we opened our church building. We had our camp out there, and people came out in droves. It was wonderful to be able to have a place to worship outdoors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that Pastor Burrell, you have someplace on campus that you meet?
Yes, we've been very fortunate to have the gym. Ron Schaefer has been gracious in allowing us to use that facility. We meet upstairs in the gym before COVID, and for a very small contribution. Our goal is to expand downstairs into the main gym, and eventually one day get our own building. But that's way forward. But for now, we want to meet in the gym downstairs probably by next year, I would say. But for now, we're very comfortable worshiping upstairs. So,
Lowell, do you have your own facilities, or do you rent?
No, we are renting in both facilities.
Okay, it's very hard to get land in Edmonton. I know it's costly, and
Yes,
it's hard to find the right piece of land. So, our time has come to the end, and this has been fun. I know that maybe people that are listening don't know the process and don't know some of the struggles you go through as you do a new church plant and progress all the way to a church. And I pray for all of you, because I know it's a different ministry. It's not the normal for a pastor to go out and have a company and a fellowship group, and then a company, and then proceed. But I'm sure it's wonderful, a feeling for all of you to be able to do this. Does anybody want to say one more thing before I go? You're all very quiet. But you know what? It's good to have you on, and it's good to know that you're out there and you're working for the Lord, and the conference is helping you, and we give you our thoughts and prayers as you continue.
Amen.
Thank you all so much for being with me this morning, or today, I guess it is. And we'll ask you next year how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Debbie.